Hi all, welcome to the Marquee Matchups for the 19th of May. Plenty of routes as usual to cover for this. It's going to get a lot harder for this week coming and next week with obviously the leagues kind of wrapping up, so it's going to be interesting what they kind of opt for. And as we said, this week just passed, was kind of hard. We only got 2 routes, which was a bit of a bummer, but still hopefully found it useful as always. So we can smash the links, be awesome, sub to the channel if you're new, follow me on Twitter at G the Legend. All the links are down below for playlists in the channel and social media links as always. So Lokomotiv Zenit is my first shout of the week. Quite a big game in Russia really, when it's a Moscow team versus a St. Petersburg team, and I quite fancy it, to be honest. I would say 1 player from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, 100 chem is what we always cover our back with. 78 rating I would kind of maybe say they might go for, they might go like 77. The reason why I'm saying quite a decent-ish rating is because a lot of people will probably open packs, and there's a good chance EA will think, oh, if we give them a high enough rating, they'll be kind of underprepared. But 68k for cost, 46k reward, and 7 out of 10 for likelihood. Good players to kind of invest in is Janbev and Ivanovic, these kind of fullbacks. Then Nobo is quite a cheap option. Zenit have quite a lot of options like Kerzakov, the goalie and the striker, so you're kind of covered there. AIK versus Gothenburg or Gothenburg. This is kind of an interesting route in terms of however they could prepare this. I would say 1 from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rare players, 5 nations, 70 overall rating, mainly because there's a bit more, there's 2 golds now in the league, so you've got a bit more to work with. But there's a lot of decent like 72s to 74s in the league, so you've got quite a bit to work with. 36k cost, 35k reward, and a 5 out of 10 for likelihood. It's deemed a big game apparently in Sweden, but I'm not 100% convinced. My personal preferences would be by the 2 Deutsche Gardens players of Jonas Olsen and Kim Kalstrom, and kind of just build by the wingers ideally of Gothenburg. They've got good strikers as well like Heisen. Then Athletic Madrid versus Athletic Bilbao, so it's kind of like the battle of almost in the sense of the athletics. But 1 from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, 100 chem, 80 overall rating, 8 to 10k for cost. This could even go to 81, I really hope not, but 5 to 7k reward and a 4 out of 10 for likelihood. Can I see this happening? Personally not. The Real Madrid Sevilla game was a game last for this week, and I didn't really fancy it, and I'm kind of covering my back with showing a route from here, but in all honesty I don't genuinely think they will cover this. I think they will look at other games and they'll probably pass this in, despite being a game that has been pondered in the past. Young Boys of Bern versus Basel. This game is like the biggest game in Switzerland, and Basel are practically wrapped up the league, but still a very big game for practically the last game of the season. Well, it's not quite the last game of the season, but we've still got another week to go, but this is quite a big game for the latter stages of the season. But 1 player from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, 70 overall rating, 46k cost and 45k reward. Kind of best shouts really are the golds in both teams. There is plenty to work with in terms of Basel. Same for Young Boys. Keep in mind Ravet has a team of the season card, so his normal card might go up in value a little bit, so keep that in mind if you try and buy his card. And there is plenty to kind of work your way with in this, and it would be quite expensive in the end. Arsenal Everton, there is 3 Premiership games I fancy. Arsenal Everton, and Manchester United versus Crystal Palace, and then the Hull versus Spurs game. I personally think they're going to do a Premier League game. Which one is the biggest problem? So I've kind of I'm going to show all 3 routes, but Arsenal Everton, 1 from both teams, 11 from the league, 7 rares, 5 nations, 81 overall, 8 to 12k cost, 68k reward, and a 6 out of 10 for likelihood. Best kind of shouts for Everton, if it's 81 overall, Coleman, Baines are like your best shout. Same for McCarthy, Schneiderlin. Arsenal, Gabriel, Ospina, Debussy, Oxlade-Chamberlain, and Walcott. Then Hull Spurs, kind of similar route, same route, but just all we've really done is put the 1 player in. Best shout really from a Hull perspective is M. Kobani, then like Ericsson, Krasicki, El Mohammadi, Ndai is another good one. But personally, if you were to put a Hull player in, like M. Kobani and Ndai, because they're the highest rated. Then from a Spurs perspective, like Lamela, Sissoko, Trippier, Dele Alli if you can nab him cheap, Wanyama, Dyer, Davis, Vorm, Janssen, these kind of guys. They're the kind of players you would look at between both teams, and it's going to be interesting. This is kind of like Spurs for second, Hull to stay up in the league. That's the way it's going to be perceived. Then Manchester United versus Crystal Palace. Crystal Palace could be fighting for relegation, which they probably didn't expect with their recent run of form. Manchester United try to sneak in the top 4, but good players to kind of go for from Manchester United are like Daley Blind, Phil Jones, Romero, Darmian, Valencia, Rashford, Ashley Young, Lingard, Fellaini. They're kind of more of an ample from Crystal Palace perspective. Remy, Benteke, Cabaye, they're kind of your main 3. Then Scott Dan, Zaha, Townsend. It gives you more of an ample to kind of cover your back with. It's more the midfield and strike force from a Crystal Palace perspective. But as you said, 1 player, 11 from the league, 7 rares. You should be well covered. Bradford Millwall is the League 1 playoff final. We've obviously the playoffs for the Championship and League 2 were last week, and they didn't feature them. And I would say if they've not featured that, or kind of any kind of league so far that seems to have a playoff based system, they've not really featured like the final game, if it's been a kind of deemed a big game. And Bradford Millwall, 1 from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, 67 overall rating, 35k cost, 34k reward, and a 4 out of 10 for likelihood. Personally, if this was to be happening, this would help those that are trying to pack like your bronze and silver team of the season cards. That's what what kind of reward you'd get. Millwall, kind of like Shane Ferguson. Bradford, the goalie Colin Doyle. Celtic versus Hearts. The reason why this game has been picked is because Celtic are going potentially come this game the perfect season. They've yet to lose in a cup game. They've got Partick on the Wednesday or the Thursday night, and depending if they beat them, then come this game Celtic could be playing for Invincibles kind of league season, like not to lose a game, and that would be some record in all honesty. But 1 player from Celtic and Hearts, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, 67 overall rating, 35k cost, 34k reward, and 5 out of 10 for likelihood. It's so cheap just now, mainly because of the amount of packs being opened, and Scottish Premiership players are really down at the moment. Like your silvers you can nab for like 150, 200, and the rares are about 300 a pop, so it's relatively cheap and affordable. Inverness versus Motherwell, on the other hand, is like a bottom of the table clash. Both teams are fighting to stay in the Scottish Premiership. Inverness potentially come this game might be relegated, and Motherwell could be still fighting for the relegation playoff spot, which might determine if they go down or not, because they would play the winner of the Scottish Championship playoff games. But for this it would be 1 player from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, 67 overall rating, 3 out of 10 for likelihood. This is probably my least likely game of the week. Also with Celtic and Hearts, that's kind of a much stronger shout, because it's kind of like the biggest team in Glasgow versus the biggest team in Edinburgh in theory, but if you want to class it within the league. So it makes for quite interesting how they could perceive the Scottish Premiership if we get an option this week. Hamburg versus Wolfsburg is a relegation clash in the Bundesliga, and I believe both have never been relegated, so this would make very interesting viewing if either team was to potentially face relegation. But 1 player from both teams, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, 80 overall rating, 8 to 10k cost, 5 to 7k reward, and a 6 out of 10 for likelihood. This is a strong shout, mainly as I said, because of, I think, going on like history, I think they're both like former winners of the league, and I don't think they've ever been relegated. I know Hamburg haven't, but I'm not 100% sure on Wolfsburg. This would be some doing if this kind of route was to happen. Good shouts for Hamburg are kind of like Papadopoulos, Muller, Hunt, and like Wolfsburg is like, look at in the midfield and defence like Wilsheid, Knock, Bazour, Mali. Then the last shoot of my choices this week is Club Brugge versus Ghent. This is like one of the biggest games in Belgium, and we had Club Brugge last week and they weren't featured, but this is probably just as big a game, and I would imagine this has a strong shout. But 1 player from both Club Brugge and Ghent, 11 from the league, 4 rares, 5 nations, 70 overall rating, I think maybe potentially 72, 73 as an extreme, 5 to 8k for cost, 4 to 6k reward, and 7 out of 10 for likelihood. Quite fancy. Good shouts to kind of invest in is Naranjo, the left mid from I was going to say Club Brugge there, but he's Ghent. Same for Matty Ryan, And also Engels is another good shout. Najar, Pina is another good shout for rating. Hope you find this useful. As always, there is some other games that could feature, so keep in mind. I'll put a tweet out about that as well. So sub to the channel if you're new. Follow me on Twitter at GZLegend, smash the likes, and catch you all later.